Welcome to Ancient Geeks, a podcast from a couple of geeks of a certain age. From our youth to the present day, we look at the development of fantasy and science fiction culture and all its manifestations. We were geeks before it was chic. I'm your co-host, John Stephen Taylor, and please remember, no matter where you go, there you are.
I'm your co-host, Perfect Tommy Grant.
Perfect. Today on Ancient Geeks, we're talking about the 1984 film, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. So, Tom, what geekery are you engaged in this week before we talk about this film?
Well, a couple of quick mentions. One is, as part of my solo role-playing venture, I decided to get the physical copy of one of these small print role-playing games out there, and this one is kind of designed to be played well, both solo and with other people, called Call Arath. I found out that the white box edition that had everything in one little box, that's a callback to the white box of D&D. Anyway, that was available still, and so I jumped on that, and the U.S. Postal Service will be delivering that to my door today, presumably.
There you go.
The other thing I want to mention quickly is, I'm holding up, but the listeners can't see this book by Taschen, Masterpieces of Fantasy Art. So I did a post on the Substack about the artists who drew paperback covers of books that we read when we were younger and still read. And anyway, I found this compendium of a lot of those artists, which is really brilliant. Definitely recommend that to anybody who's interested.
Excellent. The only thing that I will mention, as I listened yesterday to the second episode of the Star Trek Con narrative podcast, would have been a radio drama back in the day. I mentioned the first episode a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. Of course, at this point, presumably all the episodes have dropped, but if you haven't listened to that, I would recommend it so far. I've been enjoying that.
Great.
Okay. So, as noted, today our topic of discussion is the 1984 film starring Peter Weller as the aforementioned Buckaroo Banzai and his adventures across the eighth dimension. What theme music would you propose we use, Tom, for this movie, if we could afford the rights?
Well, since this movie is really sort of a parody of Doc Savage, the pulp character I think started in the 40s. Anyway, I would pick from the Doc Savage movie the theme music.
Okay.
Which is, have no fear, Doc Sav. No, not. Wait. Let me redo that. Have no fear, the man of bronze is here. Anyway.
That inspires possible other jokes that I won't make right now.
Please don't.
So, I mean, a little bit of background about this movie before we talk about it. Oh, my music. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Music.
I would pick the end title march theme,
Yeah,
where
that's
they
great.
walk around the dam for whatever reason they were walking around the dam. As one does. So, anyway, as I was saying, so it's worth pointing out, since this movie, which has become kind of a cult classic over time, did not do that well at the box office when it was released in '84. I think I read somewhere that only made about half of what it cost, which is not a good thing, I guess, when you're being an accountant for a studio. It was directed by W.D. Richter, who co-wrote Big Trouble in Little China, which seems there's some shared DNA with you can see that in this movie.
Certainly tonally.
Yes.
There's
some. Oh, yes. It was created and written by Earl Mac Rausch, who also co-wrote Scorsese's New York, New York, which is an interesting combo. Apparently, he'd come up with the idea for this character that he bandied about for many years, writing sort of fragments, but never actually finally, until this movie, coming up with the final script. He was friends with Richter, and that's how this all came about.
Was it intentionally supposed to be a riff on Doc Savage?
I saw the comp, and that's in my notes as well, but I don't know that it was intentional. I think maybe there was some echo of that kind of stuff. I don't know how much it was intentional, to be honest.
Right. So should we explain now who Doc Savage was? Okay. So Doc Savage was a pulp character, and he would have amazing adventures around the world. He was this omnicompetent guy. He was scientist and kind of incredible physical specimen and so forth, and he had a group of people who worked with him, and so really then the whole kind of the whole idea of that sort of central, super competent guy with
Right.
his team
Right.
is effectively what this movie is.
Agreed. I will
Just with a lot more cocaine.
very possibly. It was the 80s after all. Something's going on. Um, I found a review of the movie from 2011. It was in something called reactormag.com. The reviewer was Danny Bose. I'll try to remember to post this at some point. But I found this line from the review to be so perfect for this podcast that I had to call it out. In the review, the author, Mr. Bose, says it is profoundly a movie by, for, and of geeks and nerds at the time before geek and nerd culture was mainstream. And I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, definitely.
And it certainly fits our theme of geek before it was chic. Because this movie, I think, is in some ways it's mystifying. I think to to non-geeks, and maybe it's mystifying to geeks. When did you first encounter this movie,
In
Tom?
the theater when it was released.
Me as well. Me as well. I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I do remember being in the theater seeing it at the time, and subsequently watching it on VHS at some point, some years later. Um,
I remember coming out of the movie theater and saying, that was something.
so yeah,
Yeah, that was a thing.
I won't know if I would want to say that I love this movie. I have a great deal of affection for this movie.
Hmm.
And I still do, even after having rewatched it, even though, some of its warts maybe are a little more apparent over time, or maybe they're apparent to you at the time. So let me ask, before you get into the movie, I was going to ask this later, but I think it's worth asking now, especially that you mentioned the Doc Savage comparison. Um, and I also think it kind of connects maybe back to our discussion of Flash Gordon to a degree.
Hmm.
So is this movie camp? Is it parody? Is it a comedy? Is it a spoof? Is it some kind ways sincere? How would you classify this film?
I think there are elements of it that are definitely camp.
Hmm.
And I mentioned the Doc Savage movie, not just because of the similarity of the characters and its pulpiness, but also it was incredibly camp.
Hmm.
Camp to, I think, a painful degree. I haven't seen it in many years, but I'm talking about the Doc Savage movie now.
Hmm.
But it was pretty awful. And here I could see that there were lots of winks to the audience going on in Buckaroo Banzai. Do we
Right?
have to say the full title every time?
No.
Thank God. The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. Uh, so I think that there was that element of it. Like they were trying to have fun, but there were other parts of it where it felt like they also wanted to do some things a little serious, or
Hmm.
maybe they needed to create a little tension by having aliens ready to zap Russia so that they would start World War III because they were pissed off about their worst criminals escaping. Anyway, maybe that was just like a convoluted reason to have the movie as it was. I don't know.
Right. No, well, I mean, I think the way all that stuff read to me was if you're going to make a movie set in the 80s, it might have um, aliens attacking that it's going to upset the Soviets. I don't
I
know.
think so. I think there was a little too much camp
There
to
was.
really make it to really engage you.
Well, there are clear moments of very direct camp. I mean, again, why is the president in this anti-gravity, back brace thing the entire movie? um, or some of it's things like when to get ahead of ourselves when Buckaroo is trolling about inside the Electroid's lair, like the
Yeah,
word secret is spelled Sekrit, things like
right.
that, which felt you know rather overtly comedic. I, I'm split on this, and that's part of why I asked the question now, because it may influence the way we talk about this, or may inform the listeners as to how we approach the discussion. Um, Part of me feels like this is intentionally a camp movie, and in some ways done better than Flash Gordon in the sense that it's not so overtly over the top.
Yeah,
It's a little more it can be appreciated more. And it's not it's well, sometimes it's silly, but it's not really a silly movie. Then part of me feels like this movie is a sincere attempt at kind of a comic book-esque vibe, which
Right.
therefore includes within it some elements that are campy or over the top, and maybe a little silly. Like, Jeff Goldblum's costume, for example, would fall into this category. That it's
Right.
never entirely explained why he's dressed like a rootin'
Like
tootin' cowboy
or a
from
singing
a
cowboy.
singing cowboy. I know you want to
Yeah.
join the band, but yeah.
Yeah, it
So
just
anyway,
seemed like so I was trying to encapsulate this in one line. And I think the movie is what happens if you give the kids who think that they're cool enough money to make a movie.
yeah, that's not unfair. That's not
Hmm.
unfair. I think it kind of fits this idea of made for geeks and nerds of a certain type.
Right.
Um,
And a lot of people do think they're the cool kids, right? Which I think
sure.
is why there's a lot of love for this movie in some
Hmm.
quarters, right?
Yeah.
Because they find the one-liners like, wherever you go, there you are,
Hmm.
funny.
Hmm.
They like the link to Orson Welles.
Hmm.
Um I never got the Rastafarian aliens. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But anyway, but there was a lot of
It's
things
just
in this movie
to be
that they could,
ridiculous.
like I had a friend who like loved quoting the line, "You laugh while you can, monkey boy."
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
I think that was the appeal.
Yeah. Oh no, it has a certain Monty Python-esque, let's quote it at one another,
Right.
like the Holy Grail, and I don't deny that at all.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Okay, so I'll make my other thing that I was going to say for later, but I'll put now because we've already made the Doc Savage comp. My hot take is that in some ways this is an American version of Doctor Who. Um,
Mm.
that it's this hyper competent character who is kind of quirky and wacky, and his main superpower is his brain and science.
Hmm.
Um, and it just kind of feels that way to me. It always has in some ways. Well, at least once I knew what Doctor Who was, because I would have encountered this probably before I'd seen Doctor Who. Yeah, by a year or two. Um,
So
so
we should say what his omnicompetence looks like.
yeah, so I mean,
So
yeah, but we can do let's
yeah.
roll into talking about the movie because the first
Yeah.
scene or set of scenes establishes exactly what you're talking about, right? So
Mhm.
you wanna talk about what's going on at the beginning of the movie?
Well, he's part of a test drive of a rocket-powered car, and what he's really testing is this overthruster that
The oscillation overthruster. Get
the
it right now.
oscillation overthruster. I'm sorry. Because, if you had a non-oscillating overthruster, that would be silly.
Of course.
So anyway, the oscillating overthruster that can let you move into the eighth dimension and travel through mountainsides. And then we see he's a brain surgeon and he's a
Yes.
rock star and he has
Yes.
a comic book dedicated to him. And I'm sure I'm leaving
Well,
something out.
no,
But
that's pretty much
he
it.
can't get to the test drive on time because he's helping somebody do brain surgery.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's the big setup because the big setup is his tests of this rocket of the jet
Right.
car, and then um, he's involved with Jeff Goldblum because if you want anyone to operate in your head, it's Jeff Goldblum
Right.
doing brain surgery and whatever he's doing, and yeah, it's and part of why, and this may work for the Doc Savage things. I'm aware of Doc Savage, but I have no real background with Doc Savage. Um, Part of why the Doctor Who thing works for me is that everyone knows who he is and instantly respects him because it's Buckaroo Banzai, including the President of the United
Right.
States or whomever. It's like, and we make
Yeah, he
accommodate.
has an institute,
Yeah, and you
you
make
know,
the Banzai Institute,
the
don't you
Banzai
know?
Institute. Yeah.
And everyone defers to him in a certain kind of way,
Hmm.
and kids love him, and I don't anyway. But anyhow, so yeah, this whole scene, he's driving the car after the brain surgery, wherein he deviates from his pathway for testing his
Hmm.
car because we know that he has this device that he puts into the car which actually kind of looks like now that I think about it, the dematerialization circuit in the TARDIS. I'm going to make these comparisons now, I guess.
Yeah.
But also the part looks like the flux capacitor from Back to the Future,
Hmm.
which may have been a coincidence. Um, and he drives through the mountain because the whole idea is that with this device that you can then, because as we all know, even solid matter is full of empty space, and you can find a way to travel. That's the whole idea, right? And,
Right.
and he also, in so doing, comes back with something attached to his car that's a living creature from the eighth dimension, and this sparks a whole series of things.
Oh, and we
But of course,
see humanoid creatures
yeah, we see some
in the eighth
visions.
dimension as
Yeah,
he's flying through the mountain.
exactly. But this is a big success. It's a huge, big deal. But of course, what you do after you've done brain surgery and driven through solid matter, you go have a
Mhm.
concert in a
Right.
nightclub, as one does.
Right. Because of
Because,
all his not quite as competent, but still very competent
yeah,
sidekicks, they're all part
yes,
of the band.
yeah, the Hong Kong Cavaliers.
Hmm.
And I will admit, and not to get all woke, because I guess woke is out of the picture these days, but there is a bit of, and it's not something that I'm a big concerner with, but nonetheless, there's some cultural appropriation going on here. I know he's supposed to be half Japanese, but of course, Hong Kong's not Japan. The whole thing doesn't really make any sense.
I know. I mean,
And
I have to say that the name Banzai really bothered me when
yeah,
I first saw it, and
yeah,
it
yeah,
still does.
yeah. I think that's fair. The scene where he's doing the whole kneeling with his samurai sword just seems a bit just over too
Yeah.
much. Um, at any rate,
But
setting
it
all that
makes him
aside,
seem really cool,
yeah,
right?
it's cool.
It's like, how many things can you do to make him seem cool?
Yes. And I think also at the time, again, to throw some of the ancient geekery into all this, or the ancient part, maybe not the geekery, right? There was at that moment in time in American culture, um, not only concerned about the Japanese becoming too ascendant over us, but also a
Mhm.
lot of sort of ninjas are cool and that kind of thing is cool. And,
Right.
you know,
Mhm.
uh, samurais are cool and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, um, so I think that plays into it. I guess originally the character's name was Buckaroo Bandy. I don't know, and they changed it to Bonsai at some point. And
Like Bandai, like
no,
Bandai.
Candy with a B.
Oh,
I don't know
Buckaroo
why,
Bandy.
but that's what
Because he
Wikipedia
was
tells me.
bandy-legged?
It's entirely possible.
I don't
Who can
know.
who can say? Um, at any rate, so what we find, and again, this is when this and this may be part of the overall discussion of the film or a critique of the film. One, I would say this movie does not make total sense the first time you watch it, in my opinion. It takes like two viewings, I think, to understand what's
Mhm.
going on with some of this stuff. Did you have that feeling?
I don't think it ever makes total sense.
That's
It
the
makes
second part.
more sense on a
Yeah.
review, but I don't think it ever makes total sense.
So I was going to do like what we've done with the Star Trek podcast and even like we kind of did with the Planet of the Apes last week to go a little more chronologically, but it becomes really messy to try to for me to like scene by scene. It's just there's a lot going on in
No,
this movie.
no.
It's kind of choppy in its own kind of way. So really, I would say there's I put it down to sort of three things. There's the setup. We've talked about almost all of the setup, although there's two or three other things about the setup we need to talk about. Then there's like, which then leads into what's the basic problem of the
Hmm.
film for the characters, and then what's the resolution. So other setup parts include, which we haven't mentioned yet, he's in this concert and there's somebody crying in the audience. And again, I find this part kind of funny where he's like, oh, someone's crying. And he's like so simple. He's so empathic that he
Right.
knows that
That over
someone's,
the blasting
yes,
sound of their band, he can
yeah,
hear somebody sobbing
yes.
in the
And then,
audience.
and then something that also doesn't play that well in 2025, maybe as much as it did in 84. She has a gun and she's going to kill herself in which is terrible. Don't
Hmm.
get me wrong. But guns in bars and nightclubs has a whole different connotation to me now than it did
Yes, it
then.
sure does.
But she's going to off herself. And again, almost kind of funny, but also a little grim. All the Hong Kong Cavaliers are packing heat, and boy, when she takes the gun out,
Yeah, I know.
they're like ready to rock. So there's
But you
just
see this
something,
happen again. Like they all like
yeah,
the
yeah,
guns fly into their
yeah.
hands.
They're
Yeah.
they're um.
Yeah.
So yeah, in this group are yeah, Perfect Tommy's one that kind of looks like Billy Idol, but like better than Billy Idol. And then with the platinum blonde hair, and it's very 80s, this movie.
Yeah, with the pop collars and
Yeah, pop
yeah,
collars and Reno, and then I forget what Clancy Brown's character's name.
rawhide,
Rawhide. Thank you. Anyway.
which is kind of funny hearing Clancy Brown trying to do a Texas accent.
Yeah, he did all right. Better than some I've heard. Um, I always like Clancy Brown. So anyway, it was
Oh,
fun.
absolutely.
But and then the woman is Penny Pretty, who ends up being, which is really this we can talk about this in a minute. Kind of a gross storyline in my mind that it's
Oh,
his
very
late
gross.
wife's long lost identical twin. It's it's so ridiculous on one level.
But
And
this is where it felt
yeah,
like you can just like imagine a bunch of guys or
yeah.
and by guys I mean men and women, bunch of people at a party just like spitballing ideas, well they drink beers or do whatever, and like, oh, okay, so he should have a love interest who's the long lost identical sister of his dead wife because you got to have a dead wife. You always
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
have a
yeah,
dead
yeah,
wife
yeah.
in any
Yeah,
melodrama.
that's fair. No, it's all just, I mean, you think about that for 15 seconds, the whole thing is just so gross.
Yeah.
It's like, I thought for a genius, he's got some internal emotional problems in my mind. Anyway,
Oh, and make her suicidal. That's
yeah, and
that's the
make her
other.
suicidal for no reason that doesn't totally make sense.
Right.
Um,
And then she plays no part in the story except to be,
the damsel in
the
distress.
damsel in distress. Yes.
Yes. In fact, dies, but then is brought back to life because why not? In a scene that's kind of strange in its own right. But um, so we get introduced to Penny Pretty, and then all that takes place, and then we then also see John Lithgow as Emilio Lizardo, who is in the Funny Farm.
Hmm.
Pardon the phrase, but it kind of fits the way it works in this movie.
Yeah.
He's in a home for the criminally insane, I guess, kind of like the Arkham of this Arkham Asylum of this universe.
Yeah.
And he's seeing all this on TV, and for some reasons that make no sense whatsoever, he puts some device on his head that shocks him, and then makes him go into again the doodle doodle. He goes back in
Yes.
time to
Flashback
the
mode.
flashback.
Yeah.
Um, this is the scene in particular that doesn't make sense to me the first time we see the movie. Like, what are they trying to do here? It's supposed to be the same scientist, Professor Hakita, who is working with Buckaroo Banzai
Hmm.
to create the oscillation overthruster. This was the original attempt to go through solid objects,
Right.
which doesn't work, and it makes John Lithgow's character become possessed by an evil electroid. See, it's fun to say, but so bizarre. Lord John
It's
Warfin of the red electroids who are the bad electroids,
right. So they
who
can
are all
possess
trapped,
people.
and they're all trapped in the eighth dimension, and they want
Right.
to get out.
And this is the part that still doesn't make sense. Like, how do
Right.
they possess people? I
Just him. He's the only one.
Right.
Because
Because
the
when I
rest of
first
them,
saw it, it's like, why are they listening to this human,
yes.
the Lectroids? Why were they,
Yeah, yeah.
being
So
subservient to him?
again, this doesn't really flow narratively. The bottom line is this, right? And in fact, I had to, even after seeing it, yesterday I finished it and trying to figure out exactly what's going on. I think it took me a combination of reading some things and then going back and rewatching some scenes to fully grasp the whole thing. So see if this is what you think is the case, because maybe I'm wrong. So here's what I understand to be the case. For some reason that I don't think is clear,
Hmm.
the red electroids tried to invade New Jersey in 1938 that Orson Welles tried to warn everyone about in his famous War of the Worlds radio broadcast. But then, but it actually was real, but then the electroids forced Orson Welles to say that it was fake.
Right.
Then somehow, in this part, I don't know how this happens. Maybe the black electroids they got banished, at least some of them got banished to the eighth dimension. Some of them end up hanging
The
out.
Phantom Zone.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, and then the rest of them, though, stayed in New Jersey, including all these John Big Boutte and
Yeah.
oh gosh, what other Johns there were? I mean, I remember John Yahya
John
and John
Yahya.
Smallberries, and
Right. Yeah.
John O'Connor is the other main. What is it? Main bad guy. Um, and they're all waiting somehow for Lizardo. This part really doesn't make any sense. Why were they hanging around in New Jersey for like 40 something years before
Waiting for the chance to bust their friends out of
bust their
the
friends out of the eighth dimension and then take
nth
over the
dimension.
Earth?
But again, but like
I
uh,
know.
I,
So, but now that
this is going to be my reaction through much of this
it's
discussion.
fair.
I'm going to be rendered speechless sometimes by this
That's
movie.
not good for a podcast, Tom.
It's not good for a podcast.
No, it's not.
No, because those are the pauses you have to shorten in the editing process.
Again, we need sound effects. A sound effect that Tom is speechless.
Doing.
Yeah. At any rate, so Lizardo breaks out of jail because now he knows there's an
Well,
overthrow.
out of
This is the whole thing.
wait, hang on.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's one other person in the funny farm scenes worth mentioning.
Oh yeah, Jonathan Banks.
Jonathan Banks, yes.
Mike
Mike
himself
Ehrmantraut, yeah.
is
From
the is
Breaking
sort
Bad
of
and Better Call Saul.
yes. He's the caretaker in this place.
They seem to have only one
Um,
employee.
yeah, yeah. And Lizardo kills him and takes off. And of course, Lithgow is playing. He's like so over the top. He's got this crazy red wig and he's got really bad teeth, which really clearly bad teeth equals bad guy.
Yeah.
And of course, Lizardo is Italian, so Lithgow has this ridiculous Italian accent through the entire film. It's it's bonkers.
But I would say when I first saw this, he was the most fun
Oh,
to watch.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's bonkers, but he's the most fun. I
Yeah.
totally agree with that.
Yeah, you know, like I apparently regularly gets deliveries of random things, and
Yes,
his place is just a mess. It's
yes,
sort of like a hoarder's paradise, you know.
yes.
I,
Well, Yo-Yo Dine Industries,
yeah,
sending care packages to Dr. Lizardo. Um, so then somewhere in all of this, the the good guy aliens fake call from the president of Buckaroo Banzai, and then they zap him so he can see the other electroids that are there. So
who
again,
have bacteria that can mess with your mind, so
yes,
you don't see them as aliens, you see them as normal
correct.
humans.
And so this is again, this cast is crazy. So, I mentioned John Big Booty. That's Christopher Lloyd,
Yeah,
who
big
is
boutte.
well, Big Booty, Big Booty. Then you get also, I'm going to say this guy's name wrong, Vincent Schiavelli, who is
Yeah,
also a fairly prominent character actor.
character. Yeah, it's a lot of
He
movies.
was
Yeah,
in
very
his
distinctive looking face.
very
There's a
distinct looking
long
film. Yeah.
face.
He's John
Dan,
O'Connor.
yeah, Dan Hedaya.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
who was Nick Tortelli on
Yes,
Cheers and among other things.
that's right. They're all there.
Yeah,
Um,
who else? There was somebody. Oh, Ronald Lacey. Ronald Lacey, who played the Gestapo guy in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, he's the president.
He's the president of the United States. It's crazy.
And we have utterly failed to mention Ellen Barkin,
Oh yeah,
who
Ellen
plays
Barkin
Penny
is
Pretty.
Penny Pretty.
Yeah,
But again, I mean, even we didn't. I didn't mention it, but I mean, it is kind of wild. So Peter Weller is Buckaroo Banzai, who goes on to be RoboCop and a whole bunch of other things.
mm,
And Jeff Goldblum becomes a major star. It's kind of crazy, this
yeah.
cast. Anyway,
Robert Ito, wasn't he on? What was that medical drama that used to be with Jack Klugman? Was he
oh, was
Quincy?
he on Quincy?
Quincy. He was on Quincy. Yes.
Quincy M.E. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Well, yeah. It's crazy. Anyway, so eventually they then have to assemble the Hong Kong Cavaliers so they can all go take on the Electroids that had this base in New Jersey, in which they had go to the base. And There's also this weird subplot that kind of gets lost, and some of the Secretary of Defense is helping been funding these people because he thinks they're going to deliver some kind of bomber, and he shows
Yeah.
up by himself to like
Yeah.
demand the
In a
bomber.
weird jumpsuit that,
Yes,
which,
it's
you do as Secretary of Defense,
sure. He had a
you're,
hat, and they have a
yeah.
hats.
He had a
Well,
hat. Yeah.
there's a Secretary of War joke in there I won't make. Anyway,
Yeah.
so Um, and this is when again, they never. I mean, I understand that the idea is that John's a very common name, but it is hilarious when you get this list of all the people that all named John
Yeah.
something.
Right.
Um, but for what the only part I didn't understand is why did the black electroid, the Rastafarian electroid, also have he was John Parker? Everyone was John, even the other aliens.
Uh,
They never really.
well, and why did he have that trembly thing with his hands?
Yeah, the black electroids never really get developed very well, I must say.
No. Though they did have a very cool spaceship, I have to say.
They had a cool
I like
spaceship.
the
They were sort of
spaceship.
hanging around. I wasn't sure what they were really doing except delivering information to Buckaroo Banzai, but there they were.
Yeah. But their shuttles are easily downed by small arms fire.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Um, as you mentioned, there's a subplot in which the president, because again, the American government is reduced down to the president and this anti-gravity like brace thing for his back.
Hmm.
There's a general who's eating an apple during much of the movie.
Right.
There's a Secretary of Defense, and then there's a couple other people, and that's it. And they're all in some weird room, I guess, in the White House. They're worried about the Soviets starting World War III. There's a
Yeah.
whole, again, one of the very campy parts is there's this whole thing where they decide they have to go to whatever red alert status they need to go to, and they hand the president this packet of materials, which
Hmm.
includes the short form for declaration of war.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. Um, then we have the whole thing where Buckaroo gets captured by Worfen, and they torture him and Penny Pretty's in the basement being
Hmm.
tortured, and all of that business. Um, it also includes, and I'm kind of all over the place. Is it, I think, kind of hilarious bit where Lithgow is Mussolini it up to
Oh
to
yeah,
the
that was funny. Yeah.
you know the joy of duty. And
In
where
in
he,
this big overcoat,
yeah, oh, with medals on it.
It looks like it was Stalin's,
Yes, exactly.
overcoat. Yeah.
Where are we going? Planet 10. When are we going? Real soon?
Yeah.
It's bizarre. And then then when the Hong Kong Cavaliers are broken into the place, I never noticed this before actually. I don't know how I missed it. There's this very calm announcer in the background,
Yeah.
like there are monkey boys in the facility. Caution or
Right.
whatever. It's just like
Yeah.
over.
If you haven't boarded the great vehicle by
Yes,
now,
that's
then
right.
you're out of luck.
That's right.
So which includes that guy who's talking,
That's
apparently.
right. So then they can't find the actual overthruster. So he has Worfen's made his own, which it doesn't work. And this again, when this is when the movie also doesn't make any sense to me. They get in the big ship. They're supposed to try to go
Hmm.
through the wall using the overthruster to go to the eighth dimension to free all their comrade electroids in the Phantom Zone.
Hmm.
It doesn't work. So the ship just busts out of the facility and it's flying around. And it just so happens that Buckaroo Banzai and John Parker are in a pod which is armed, which for some dumb
Hmm.
reason Worfen drops out and they blow up the big ship. But like I have no idea what Worfen was going to do at that point. I didn't
No.
understand why the black electroids didn't get involved. I'm like, what are we doing here? I have
Right.
no
So
clue.
okay, so let's rewind a little bit.
Please.
So first of all, the fight scene in the factory
Yes.
uh, involved more stuntmen falling from high places
Yes.
than I think I've seen in any movie. It was like
That's
over
fair.
and over again. I mean, I don't know if that was intended as a joke, but it got to be funny after a while. Okay, so I just wanted to hit that note.
No,
Second,
I'm
second note.
going to say that there's a lot in this movie that I can't decide if it's an intentional joke or
Right.
not.
Or just something that was so stupid it became funny. Um, Penny Pretty, in an earlier scene, there's a
Mhm.
press conference.
Yes.
And for some reason, she's sitting there with the Hong Kong Cavaliers and Buckaroo Banzai, and she makes like an intelligent observation or two, right? So
Yes, she does.
she's not a dummy.
That's right. That's right.
And yet for the rest of the movie,
Yeah.
she's just kind of useless, right?
Well, for some reason, I even forget why. She ends up with the overthruster in her purse.
Right.
And so
So
they're
someone
torching her.
so Robert Ito's character gives it to
That's
her.
right. That's right.
Yeah, to because she's on the other side of a metal gate, and anyway,
Right.
and then she gives it to the little kid, I guess,
Yeah.
at some point.
Yes. That's right.
Which, yeah, you always want to endanger a minor when you have the
Well,
opportunity.
yeah. In fact, the little kid's armed with an automatic rifle at some point,
Yes, I know. It's just
and holds the Secretary of Defense captive after he's been behaving badly.
right. So that was I just again it really irritated me on both watches about
Right.
how just
Yes.
Ellen Barkin's character is just
No,
terrible.
I totally agree. She's there's a whole list of bad stereotypes that happen.
Oh yeah.
And again, the idea that he falls in love with her, but only because, oh, you happen to look just like my dead wife. Cool. Love at first sight, don't you know?
Oh my God. And okay, and then finally the thing that really ticked me off when I first saw the movie and ticked me off all over again this watch were the black lectroids. Like,
Yeah.
so here you have this very advanced race. They were able to
Yes.
banish the other critters to the Phantom Zone
Yes.
at some point, and yet they're putting everything on this small group of humans to
Yes.
fix their problem for them. In
Yeah.
fact,
It
like
doesn't
the
make any
whole
sense.
like that sort of hologram
Yeah.
conversation with the woman who's the leader of the
Yes.
Lectoroids, and she's really sort of just like laying into the humans, you're responsible for fixing this, or else we're going to make
Right.
sure that you suffer nuclear annihilation.
Right. Right. Right.
Come on, really?
That's right. That's right. It doesn't.
I just was so annoyed by that scene when I first saw it.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Where do we go from here?
that's a great question. So I still after all this, I mean, you're talking me into how really this is not a very good movie. I still like it, but it's not a very good movie, and there's
But
a reason
it's
why
exemplary of some things.
it is.
So like I think it's exemplary of how even in a bad movie there can be things that you enjoy.
Right.
So, the funny lines, the either intentional or unintentional humor of like
Yes.
people falling over and over again from high places. Uh, there's stuff to enjoy in it. Like I was just reading something yesterday. I think it was on Reddit that somebody said there's a lot of people who are big fans of Hawk the Slayer, a
Mm.
movie from 1980, which I haven't seen, but
Hmm.
I'm a sword and sorcery buff, so I was thinking maybe I should go see it again. But they all said this is a terrible movie.
Right.
You should still see it,
Right.
but it's a terrible movie. Just to be clear. And there were other movies like that from not just this time period, but just since we're talking about the 80s. Crawl wasn't a great movie. There are plenty of other ones, but it's like, okay, if they popped up, someplace and, like you're on an airplane and,
Right.
and
Right.
you,
Right.
you had have nothing else to watch. Okay, I'll watch that again.
I think that's fair. I mean, I realize, well, I liked the movie when I first saw it, and it did kind of hit a little bit of that sort of cult classic notion in my brain. It isn't a movie that I like, oh, gee, I have time to watch. I'm not going to watch it again. And this
Right.
watch right here will probably keep me for quite some time.
Yes.
Would I like to have seen, as was teased at the end of the movie, but didn't actually happen, a Buckaroo Banzai versus the Crime Syndicate? Yeah, I think I would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah.
But I think there's something here. The one thing I will say in its defense, and it does kind of feel like, for all of its freneticness and all of its kind of like, I'm not quite sure I understand what's going on here about it. It does kind of feel like picking up a comic book in the middle of a run and just sort of trying to figure out what the hell's going on, but liking the
Right.
main character. That's kind of what it feels like to me still,
Yeah,
even
that's
now.
fine. Yeah.
But I do take the point that yeah, if you think too much about the antagonist, it doesn't make any sense. And yeah, it is. Lithgow's character is not interesting because his motivation necessarily is all that interesting or even makes total
Right.
sense. It's just, holy cow, John Lithgow just chewing up the scenery as this crazy alien Italian guy is hilarious.
Yeah, he's
Um,
having a ball, it
oh
feels
yeah,
like.
and there is something. I mean, it's a dumb joke, but it still gets me that he keeps calling him John Big Booty, and he's like, Big Booty, Big Booty.
Yeah.
Um, and it's stupid, but I find it funny.
Well, yeah,
Um,
I just seeing John Lithgow like hunched over
yes,
his
yes,
inferior vehicle that's going to punch into the
yes,
eighth dimension and then it, hits the wall.
yes,
And that was fun, right?
yeah.
Now this isn't a movie I would have rewatched unless you had suggested it.
So I
So
forced you. Yes,
they didn't force me. I had fun rewatching it.
yeah,
There was a lot of it that sagged, frankly.
yeah. It does.
I think it's in many respects, from a filmmaking standpoint, badly done. Like the second half of
Yeah,
the movie is just a chore to get through.
it's a weird. Yeah. And this is again, this is kind of what I was getting at when I talked about trying to like decide how to even
Hmm.
summarize it or how to structure the
Hmm.
conversation. And I know that our conversation has not been as well ordered as I would like it to have been, to be totally honest. Which I'll blame somewhat on me for not coming with a better structure, but
No,
I'll blame
no,
the
no.
film. I'll blame the
It's the
film
film. It's the
because
film.
it's a very it is it's it's really choppy
Yeah.
and it's it's hard to follow in some ways. Again, like
Hmm.
I understand what with the Lizardo's scene going through the wall the first time. I just didn't get it the first time I saw the movie. I'm like, what? One, why is he putting this thing on his ear and his tongue and it's zapping him? And what does that even mean?
Because it makes the ganglia twitch.
Apparently, but
Yeah,
why couldn't we just have a straightforward flashback? Why did it have to be? Because
I
all
don't
that does
know.
is make me think, am I watching something else that I don't understand? And then
Right.
and then the whole going through solid objects with the little trolley car thing, like is why did they want to do that? That was never clear to me.
Right.
Anyway, it's
Well, and if the aliens had a particle beam,
mhm.
why didn't they just destroy Yo-Yo Dime?
That's a great question.
I don't get it. But that's the whole thing, right? What you're saying is our reactions are choppy because it's like whenever you see something that's befuddling
Yes.
and you kind of stammer your way
Mhm.
through your feelings about what you just saw. I mean, that's this whole movie. It's
Yeah.
2 hours of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is my last thing I'm gonna say about the movie, hopefully, and then you say
Okay.
whatever last thing you want to say, and we'll move on.
Okay.
I still like and enjoyed sort of the concept of the movie. Like I said, I think I
Yes.
would have enjoyed another Buckaroo Banzai adventure. I think this movie needed some tightening and editing and some clarity. There are great lines in this movie, and that one that I wrote down was I think when it was the whole thing about the president was calling, or it was in the context of trying to figure out whether there's a real problem going on. And like one of the characters, I think it was Perfect Tommy, says, "Well, make sure this is on the level. We're busy people here." I just kind of like the whole notion of
Yeah.
it,
Right. Yeah.
and or the bit about when they're showing Jeff Goldblum's character through the institute, like, why is there a
Mhm.
watermelon here? We'll
Yeah.
tell you about that later. That kind of
Right.
stuff I find amusing. But it is ultimately in some ways a lot of interesting parts, but the sum of it's not, it doesn't quite work.
No. And if this had been the first draft
Yeah.
of something, and then as you said, they did a sequel or they did a
Yeah.
TV series or
Right. Yeah.
whatever, that they would have kind of learned from the experience of this movie. That would have been great.
Yeah.
Anything that would have been a fun callback to the pulps and
Hmm.
did something to recreate what made them highly entertaining, the way that
Right.
Raiders of the Lost Ark did.
Yes.
I'd be all over that. It's just not this. Like this really did feel like there were just a bunch of people who came up with a movie in their minds that they thought was hilarious or
Right.
fun or
Right.
whatever the intent was. But there wasn't really a bigger audience beyond that. But though there again, I'm going to say this, knowing that there are a lot of people who really do find this movie very endearing.
No, I think it
Mm.
is endearing. It's not as endearing
It was
as I
never
would
going to
like
be
it to
like
be.
a breakthrough movie, like Star Trek 2 was
No, 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 no.
from, a little bit, just not so many years earlier, or,
Hmm.
other, big geek movies that came
Right,
out in the
right,
70s or 80s.
correct. Okay. So anything else that I've overlooked
No,
you want
no,
to
go
talk about?
ahead. Go ahead.
So I guess we'll go to merch, and I'll say I had no merch. How about you?
I had none as well, including apparently there was a Buckaroo Banzai video game.
Yes, there was, which I did
I
not have.
Yeah, I did not have that either.
I
And
guess some
I
comic books as
wonder,
well.
yeah, and I wonder what that would have been like. I don't know if it's available on
That's a
GOG.com or
great question. I
someplace,
didn't
but
even think to look.
yeah.
Is there anything that you would want?
I think if you had like a little model of one of the spaceships,
Okay.
that would be neat. As I said, I liked the kind of weird, look like
Weird niche. Yeah.
driftwood
Yeah.
appearance of
Hmm.
the ship that was in space. That would be my pick. How about you?
I was hard pressed to be honest. But so I think I would go for an oscillating overthruster paperweight.
Yeah. Okay. So I do have a final thought. I just
Okay.
realized I had a
All
final
right.
thought. I think one of the problems with the movie is it tried too hard to be cool.
Yeah,
I don't think you can be cool if you try to be cool.
that's fair.
And I think there are lots of things that turn out to be cool. We just did an episode on Planet of the Apes. I mean, people went ape, haha, over that movie. Um, and it became cool for a
Hmm.
while to
Hmm.
enjoy post-apocalyptic science fiction among people who really weren't that interested in
Right.
science fiction at all. Or Star Wars kind of made space opera cool.
Right. Right.
This was an opportunity to make the pulps cool,
Hmm.
and it just didn't work. And I think coolness is a big part of geekery, and it's especially, it is especially a magical moment when that coolness of geekery becomes understood by people
Right.
beyond the domain of geekery. But this didn't reach that escape velocity.
This may not be a fair question. How would you rate this movie in comparison to Flash Gordon?
Boy, that's a tough one since I really don't like either movie. But are there any of the either of these movies I would rewatch again, or I would watch clips on YouTube? Maybe slightly more this one than
Okay.
Flash Gordon. Because I think like with Flash Gordon, I would rewatch a clip on YouTube merely to relive my bafflement at that movie.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about you? I mean,
No, I definitely like this movie better than Flash Gordon.
yeah.
I would watch this movie again over Flash Gordon.
Yeah, it made me
This movie is
laugh.
more fun
Yeah.
than Flash Gordon. I mean, Flash Gordon,
Yeah.
to harken back to that podcast, I thought that was going to be more fun than it was to watch that movie and talk about it. I thought it
Yeah.
was, and that movie was, it's just weird, that movie. It's
Mhm.
totally weird. It can't decide what it wants to be. We go from super campy football action in the throne room to, you know, rapey scenes and
Mhm.
weird death traps and logs and whatnot. I mean, it's a
Right.
strange show. And
Yeah.
this one, at least, I feel like I think they missed the mark, but I feel like there's something here nonetheless.
Hmm.
To your point, if this was one and they were either a rough draft or that it evolved some, I think it would work as a TV show if done properly, for
Hmm.
example. But I did not leave Flash Gordon thinking, gee, I sure hope there's a second one of these.
No.
I still kind of wish there was a second one of these, to be honest. So,
Well, can't be too far from its subject matter, right?
mhm.
Like the emotional distance of the creators, which then bleeds out into the creation, can't be, you can't be like too condescending to it,
Right.
too,
Right.
too clear that you find it ridiculous, whatever, the emotion is that the filmmaker has. And I think this Flash Gordon did have too much of that distance, as did the Doc Savage movie. Did you ever see that?
No, I've not.
I would not recommend it. So
That's the feeling I'm getting.
I know. I think listeners, you will be disappointed maybe that we will never do a Doc Savage movie episode.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, yeah, you can just hear everybody clicking that delete button right now.
Yeah, but I think there's an special problem with it with something that's 2 hours long. But like if you have camp that's like a half-hour comedy show like Get Smart, was camp about spy movies, which were a big deal at the time.
Right.
That's okay, but 2 hours it just drags. We
should do the Nude Bomb next. It was such a great movie.
Oh God, yeah, okay. Or was it Dr. Goldfinger and the Dr. something in the Bikini Machine, the one with Vincent Price?
I don't know that one. I remember the Nude Bomb. It's the Get Smart movie. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I went to the theater and saw it because I loved Get Smart as a kid, but that movie is awful.
Yeah. And that's true of a lot of the campy movies like that, from the 2000s on, especially.
All right. I think we should wrap this up. We should park this jet car and forestall any more discussion of the eighth dimension. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode.
In the edit, I'm going to go add my sound effect for bafflements.
Good. I'm looking for it. Toing. And on that note, I will again say thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ancient Geeks. Y'all take care.
Yeah. See you all. Whoops, we got ahead of ourselves, going to the eighth dimension. Now we need to go back to the fifth, sixth, and seventh. In the meantime, thanks for listening. You can find us on the podcast app or platform of your choice. Please like and subscribe. And we're always grateful for a review. If you have words for us, kind or otherwise, drop us a line at someancientgeeks@gmail.com. Look for us on Reddit, Facebook, Blue Sky, and other social media outlets. And most of all, on our blog on Substack, someancientgeek.substack.com. All content copyright 2025, Tom Grant and Stephen Taylor. Music by Reversed Image, whom you can find on Pixabay. See you next time.